My first guest today, we welcome back to Regina. He's certainly been here before and to CKCK Television, Mr. John Eaton, who is the National Chairman of the Canadian Forces Liaison Council. John, it's good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you, Johnny. It's nice being here.
A nice day to fly home, too. Nice and sunshine.
Well, it's nice here, but back in the east, it's terrible weather.
It's always called a Blue Monday, but we're kind of shake that up a bit. As we said before we went on the air, I'm John and he's John, the only television station that can proudly say it's got two Johns. Okay, so we're both smiling, and that's the way to start the show. If you're looking at Mr. Eaton and try to guess and say, that wouldn't be the Eaton, and yes, it is. He is the chairman of the board, Eatons of Canada. I guess you were here for the opening in the of the store.
Of the Cornwall
Center, yeah.
Yes,
Eatons
yes.
of Canada.
That was a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. But you're here for the Canadian Forces Liaison Council, and I must admit, even being close to the forces myself for a long time, a lot of people raise their eyebrows and say, the Canadian Forces what?
Yeah, what is the
Liaison Council?
The Liaison Council was set up in 1978 by the then Minister of Defense, Barney Danson, and it had to do with the reservists in our forces, and what our mandate is to get the time off for the reservists without interfering with his precious time for his holidays. So we're encouraging employers to give them the special time off they need for training when they go away for a couple of weeks in the summer for their courses. And also to give them appropriate time off if they are called to serve on peacekeeping missions overseas, wherever.
I guess I can speak for it, and most people know out there, John, that I certainly was in the Naval Reserve for a long, long, long time. And when I went to either Esquimalt or Halifax, holiday time was used.
Yeah.
Not always the most popular thing with your family.
Oh, no, because your family then never gets away, and this is what we're trying to encourage people to do. We don't want a legislation in this country. What we want is we want business to be on side and to support the reserve, because first of all, you get a better employee if they're serving in the reserves, I believe. I believe.
Can I ask you the policy of Eatons on this?
Yes, sure. We have a policy in our personnel policy manual which grants them time off, and if the pay is less in the military than they're making at the store, we make it up. We make up the difference.
Really?
Yes.
That's a breakthrough.
Well, we're not the only people, Johnny, that do that. There are other firms in Canada that do it, and of course we're out here in Saskatchewan because the government of Saskatchewan, which is the second province to do this, a proclamation which will be done today, probably just after this show is seen, and it's to say that they support what the reservists are doing.
But you're not making this legal. You have to give Timmy Bloggins.
No. It isn't making anything legal. There's no law, because I don't think Canadians want any more legislation than they've probably already got. But we want to make it voluntary, and we want to encourage people to support the reserves in this manner.
I used to remember, John, being on reserve and being on course with some Americans, say, from San Diego. They were reservists, and they were getting a pension, and they were getting time off like that. But also, they could be called out, too, for a flood or for the Gulf War, anything. They were immediately, you know.
If they're reservists, they're under law in the States. They have to show. I think the Gulf War showed that when a number of reservists were called by President Bush to go in support of the Gulf War. But our reservists go on peacekeeping missions and are prepared to be called, but it's all on a volunteer basis.
What's the, you've gone through this, we've all gone through it, what's the reaction of companies, corporations, governments that have downsized? They've got a smaller staff, and they say, you're asking me that I can let this man or woman go for 6 weeks? Well, I've only got 2 of them in that position now. How do you answer them?
That's a very tough question. How I would answer them would be to say, I hope that you feel that your country is worth something. I mean, the military in this country are being decimated, and one of the things that I have to think about is, well, you know, if we take away all the military, we have no protection at all. And therefore, the country probably isn't worth saving. Do you believe that? I don't. I think that we must have a viable military, and part of that military is the reserve, or we don't have a country that's worth saving.
Don't you think we all raised our eyebrows when we saw what happened in Somalia and we saw what happened in Yugoslavia? Those were peaceful countries for a while, and look at the torment they're in now.
Well,
and they haven't got organized forces. It's just a rabble at times.
well, yes, that's quite true. The former Yugoslavia is well, it's been a hornet's nest for hundreds of years. Somalia, I guess that is very tribal, and that's been a hotbed for a long time too.
Before we take a break, John, there's 15%, they say, of the Canadian forces eventually will be reservists. Wherever we go, peacekeeping or not, of that total force there, at least 15% will be not regular force, but reservists.
Reservists, yes, and serving overseas along with the regular soldiers. And for the most part, they are as well trained by the time they're overseas as their regular
Let's
force.
talk about the reservists and the training they get too after we take this break.
Thank you.
Coming up at 9 Saskatchewan, we'll continue to talk about the Canadian Forces Liaison Committee with Mr. John Eaton. Find out about a fundraiser for the Canadian Mental Health Association, and it's coming a big show and sale for the Regina Orchid Society. And finally, a look at the Weyburn Farm Home and Leisure Show. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Again, my guest today is John Eaton, who is the National Chairman, Canadian Forces Liaison Council. I want to congratulate the forces if they supplied us with this, the tremendous videotape they sent along and the great PR work on this. Helped a lot when you didn't know what that was.
Well, thank you.
You know?
Thank you.
Hidden assets, which of course points to the reserve. Are you in close contact with the reserve at all?
Yes, I'm in very close contact with them through the Canadian Forces Liaison Council, which is a bit of a misnomer, if you want, when we say Canadian Forces Liaison Council. It's for the reserves that we're doing it. We have very little touch with the regular force. It's primarily the reservists that we're looking after.
There was a time, John, in the reservists that they paraded at HMCS Queen or the Armory in Regina. They had a blackboard and maybe some wooden models, and that was about all they had.
Oh, I know.
But it's I know, and I've been on HMCS Regina, our new frigate. It's really state of the art. It has really changed.
It is. And the Air Force with the F-18s and the new Griffin, which is the new helicopter that the forces have, that the Air Force has. I guess the one thing that is lacking is when you put your people overseas, they are at risk in the Army because they don't have the proper material to work with.
Now, you're colonel of a helicopter squadron in Toronto, is that right?
Yes, Squadron
These
400
are reservists?
These are reservists. These are reservists, and we will now have some regulars in there. We've just got the new helicopter, the Griffin, and it arrives in my squadron, 400, and starting in August. So we're looking forward to that.
Now, to train and to fly a helicopter, and we'll just use that as an example, you can't walk in off the street and expect to do it. That requires a lot of training.
It certainly does. And what we try to do is get people who are helicopter pilots who we can train in the military way of flying as opposed to the civilian way of flying. And we're training these gentlemen as of, I think it's this month.
Well, are those people that come back into their civilian occupation, what from that do they bring to their employer?
Well, they bring, I guess, a tremendous amount of loyalty, number one, and you get a very clean-cut, forthright person, basically.
Okay, this has been proven, has it, over a...
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
What about the people that work with them? Again, I'm more or less going back to what we had said at the beginning, but we're working at Eaton's or we're working at CKCK Television. I'm not a reservist, but you are. We're doing the same job, and hey, all of a sudden you're away for a month, and then you're still getting your holidays. How do I feel?
That, well, what you've got to remember is, what am I doing? I'm working for you as well as myself because I am looking after my country.
Okay, okay.
I think that's terribly important. Remember, the reservist is not doing this for any ulterior motive. He wants to serve his country, or she wants to serve her country.
And for a while we used to laugh at that and say that's an old-fashioned idea. Are
Yes.
Canadians really like that?
I hope they are. I hope they are. Again, I hope this country is worth saving.
Perhaps if I saw that happening in the place where we work, I might say, well, look what he's getting out of it. Maybe I should get in there.
That would
Could be a bit of a recruiting thing.
Sure it could. And it would be darn good. And there are, now let me see, there are 23,000 reservists, and that number hopefully is going to increase. And you get a bigger bang for your buck if you're a reservist, I believe.
Mm-hmm. What did you do in Regina? I know that you met with our Lieutenant Governor, and you'll be meeting with Mr. Romano a bit later, but who did you network with here?
Oh, well, we have our council meeting, which is made up of volunteers, businessmen, and women from across the country who give up their time to try and help the reserves. And we had a meeting yesterday in downtown Regina. We also had a church parade at the cathedral. And
This was the Regina Rifle.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Good.
And we had a luncheon, and last night we had a mess dinner, which was a lot of fun. So I've gotten to meet a number of people in and around Regina, and strangely enough, they're wonderful people.
Mm-hmm. And I think we will have to say, are we representative of Canada too? Because, you know, when you're coming in
Sure.
Toronto with large units and helicopter squadron.
No. Of course you're a representative of Canada. I think Canada's a great country, coast to coast, and I'm just delighted to be here and to be part of this great country.
So what do we need now? Do we need more people to work for the Canadian Forces Liaison Council? You know, we're going to leave a phone number at the end of the program.
Of course. If people want to volunteer, that would be wonderful. They could get on a committee. They can help. Businesses can show their support by phoning and saying that yes, they want to support their country and they want to support the reservists.
Thank you for coming from a very, very busy schedule. Enjoy
Johnny, always
come back and
fun.
see our brand new football team with a new look this year. John Eaton,
Fine.
so good to see you.
Thank you.
John Eaton is the chairman of the Canadian Forces Liaison Council and also the chairman of the board of Eaton's of Canada. We'll continue now as we have a little feature here on epilepsy.